special guest that's off camera right now, and I was trying to figure out the best way to intro this person. But I think we're just gonna bring him on and kind of talk through some stuff. So, do you want to come on? Just kidding, it's me. Uh, I am your sole podcast person this week. I don't know how you want to say it, but I am on a trip visiting some family in Ohio, and I was gonna try to set up a guest to come on, and I had reached out to a few people about coming on the show, but they timing wise it didn't work out. I'd also thought about asking some local comics to come on and do an interview, but I haven't really vetted any of the people here yet, so I'm a little hesitant to do that. So you get me for this episode, which is cool. I think we're gonna have a good time. We've got a few things to talk about. We're going to talk about the trip so far. I've got some lovely questions that some of my Facebook friends and ChatGPT have asked, and we're going to go from there. Yeah, thanks for joining. This will be, I think, the 10th episode of the What's Going On podcast, and it's certainly the first one that I've done by myself. So I'm set up in my hotel room right now. I'm staying in a loft hotel in Columbus, New York. Columbus, Ohio. I'm staying here because my family lives nearby. Well, I just got another question submitted, and it's a pretty good one. We'll answer it here in a minute, but excuse me. My family lives about an hour west of Columbus, and I came down here last night to stay after open mic that I did. And I was going to record a podcast last night, but I got too tired, so I didn't do it last night. So, sorry. I stayed tonight and just did another open mic tonight. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but that's why I'm doing the podcast here in a loft hotel room, and it's a pretty nice setup. I had to finagle the lighting a little bit, so there's a lamp right here that's giving me most of the lighting that you're seeing right now, and it's leaning really far back, just because the shade on it blocked out a lot of the light. So if it didn't lean really far back, it'd be like kind of dim. If that makes sense. But yeah, this is what we're cooking with. So anyway, yeah. So I'm on a trip right now to see family in Ohio. I had a bunch of time to take off work. I had probably like 3.5 weeks of total time to take off work. And I have done that. Sorry, let me make sure my camera's plugged in here. But yeah, I just had a ton of time to take off work and plan a trip. I was originally going to go on another road trip, but I decided to spend some more time with family and just check out the Ohio comedy scene. And it's been really fun so far. I've got to check out a lot of local open mics in the Columbus and Dayton area, as well as some in Buffalo that I did on my way down here. So it's been pretty good. I think I've hit a total of, actually I can tell you, probably like 15 mics in the past week or so. 11. Okay. 11. It'll be probably 15 or 20 by the time I'm done with this trip, but it's pretty good for a 2-week period. Doing open mics is really important if you're trying to get into comedy. It's just a good way to test out your material. Try out new jokes, make connections with other comics, which has been huge on this trip, as well as just try your material in front of new crowds. It's been really nice. My jokes have definitely hit different depending on where my audiences have been, so it's been pretty interesting. I've enjoyed being able to tell my jokes in front of new people and get different feedback than I normally do, so anyway, yeah, so if you're doing comedy and you're going to a new city, there's a bunch of different ways and opportunities that you can find open mics. The best one that I've had the most luck with is Facebook. Typically any bigger city you go to, like Columbus or Albany or Cleveland or even Dayton, will have a Facebook comedy group of some kind that you can join, and they typically post all their open mics there. So that's what I did. I joined quite a few different Facebook groups, and just kind of caught wind of the different open mics they had. A lot of the ones here in Columbus you have to sign up for ahead of time, and even some of the ones in Dayton you do too. So I was able to do that before I left for the trip and was able to get some spots. They were pretty good. Even in Buffalo, when I did open mics there was two mics I had to sign up for ahead of time. One was kind of more of like a show, but it was scheduled as a mic. I don't remember the name of the venue. It was like Nitsy's or something like that. It was pretty cool. Had a really good turnout for the show on I think a Tuesday night, which was awesome. But anyway, yeah, check Facebook for these events. There's all kinds of comedy Facebook pages out there you can join and get really good information on. I've also had luck with posting in those groups saying that I was going to be in the area, and if anybody had suggestions for mics for me to do, to comment them below, or even if they had shows that I could get on. I've made posts like that and had some decent luck with that. So, but yeah, I've had a really good time so far doing comedy. In Ohio, there's a ton of cities that have really good clubs. There's quite a few like Funny Bones in Ohio, at least 3 that I can think of right now. Between Cleveland, Columbus, and Dayton. I think there's also one in Toledo and maybe one in Cincinnati. But there's also really good clubs like the Attic here in Columbus, where I'm at right now, which is a really good club. They're smaller, but they are just a really nice layout, really friendly people there. It's super cool. There's also a few other clubs that I haven't been to, like I believe Hashtag Comedy Club, and I forget what the other one is, but quite a few clubs in the area. So there's lots of opportunities to get involved in those. All right, let me flag this. There we go. All right, sorry about that, guys. I had a little camera snafu, and my camera just shut off randomly. So I apologize if the angle on this looks a little different, or if the audio sounds weird at all. But we're back and rolling, so we're gonna get back to what we're talking about. Yeah, I was basically telling you about the comedy scene in Columbus and Dayton in this area. Like I said, there's a bunch of really cool clubs to get involved in. The really important thing, no matter where you're doing comedy, is to get out and do stand up. So try to get on as many mics as you can, meet as many people as you can, get your name out there, and let people know that you're funny, and also be funny. I think a lot of people will have the drive to do comedy, but they don't have good bits worked out. So especially if you go to a new place and you bomb, it might not leave the best impression on people, especially if you're only there for like a day or two. But if you go with really good material, you get people to laugh, that sticks out to people. They're more willing to follow you or maybe give you other connections to other open mics. Excuse me. That happened to me, actually. I went to an open mic on Sunday in Yellow Springs. And while I was there, I met another comic who would host a mic in Dayton. And he said, just show up and he'll give me time. And he did, and it was a really good show, and I had a great time. So shout out to Caleb Lee, CALEPLEE. Weird spelling for his name. But yeah, shout out to you, or to him. He gave me some good stage time, and it was just a good connection to have. He's a producer in the area. He's been doing comedy for a little while, and it's just another person that I can meet and interact with, and that will hopefully maybe book me on a show one day. But we'll see. Another good option for finding open mics in your area is to visit a website called Bad Slava, BADSLAVA. Now, I don't know if it's the most up-to-date list in there, but they list a lot of major cities throughout the United States and other countries that have open mics. And if you look for the cities, let's go to Ohio here. Excuse me. We'll go to Columbus. And it lists out all the open mics that are available by the day. So, like right now, there's It says Thursday, 12/04/25. It's got 9 different mics listed. Now, I don't think this is up to date. I'm sure some of these mics don't exist anymore. In fact, I know some of these mics don't exist anymore. And the one that I went to tonight is not on this list. So it's not the most up-to-date thing, but it could lead you to some open mics if people are updating it well. So other than the comedy and making some good connections, I've had a good time out in Ohio so far. I've spent a lot of time with family, including today. It's my sister's birthday, so we went and did some shopping, got lunch, got coffee, and had a really good time. I picked up this today, which is pretty cool. It is a little travel humidor by Brookstone. It's one of the TJ Maxx brands that's out there. I'll show you the inside. Sorry for those that are listening. You don't get to see this, but it's can carry up to 7 cigars. Has a little built-in humidor in there, and a place to carry your tools. I thought it was really cool. I picked it up immediately when I saw it, because I tend to bring cigars with me, no matter where I'm traveling. I just like to have them around. They're fun, and I enjoy smoking them. So if I could, I'd be smoking one right now. But I don't want to pay the fine for smoking in my hotel room, so I shall not. All right. I've got a bunch of questions to answer. Quite a few questions that were submitted over Facebook. And then I've also prompted ChatGPT to write some questions for me, which we'll get into here in a minute. But I put out the prompt to my followers. I'm recording a podcast episode soon. What are some questions or topics we should discuss on the episode? Comment or DM me. So let's go through those because I think they're pretty fun. My friend Brian Glasser commented comedy or EMS ? That's a really good question. I equally enjoy both, genuinely. I really love EMS and the ability to help people, but also the community around EMS is really good, and I also just really enjoy the places that I work. And I don't know that I'd really trade that right now. I love comedy, and I certainly want to do that full time eventually, and EMS is a good job to carry me over until that time if I can go into comedy full time. But I love both. I really do. Even if I do go comedy full time, I don't think I'll ever give up EMS fully. But ask me again in a few years and see how I think. Aaron Timms commented, growing up in the Adirondacks. I did not actually grow up in the Adirondacks. I grew up in Ohio, which I enjoyed. I grew up in a small town called West Liberty, which was a pretty cool town. It was very small. A few stores there, one gas station, like 3 stoplights. But the school district was really nice. Had a lot of really great friends growing up, and just a good atmosphere to grow up in. So I enjoyed that a lot. I think it would have been neat to grow up in the Adirondacks, just because it's beautiful up here or up there. But I also don't know that I would enjoy the winters growing up there as much. Ohio's a little more tame, so I enjoy Ohio winters a little bit better. Dan Gurin is a comic friend of mine. Tours all over the Albany area. Is very funny. Go check him out and give him a follow. I commented, how is Dan Gurin so damn handsome? Dan, that's a great question. None of us can figure it out. A lot of us comics have put our heads together, and we just can't seem to understand why you're so handsome. So there you go. Book me on a show for that answer. But shout out to Dan. He came up to headline the Moose Festival show we did in Indian Lake in September, which was awesome. He did a fantastic job, and it was a really good show. Great turnout, great venue, and Dan crushed it. If you get the chance to go see him live. He's just a great performer, a really good comic. He's been around the Albany scene for probably like 10 plus years, I think. And it shows. He's very seasoned. He's very good. And his material is awesome. So go check out Dan. Shout out Dan. Tyson Converse asked, or commented, chasing your dreams. Um, what should I talk about with that? So comedy is my dream. I want to do this full time and be an entertainer full time. I think this is an interesting time that you ask this because I believe I just saw that you're going to a different job. So congratulations on that and good luck to you, Tyson. But yeah, I think it's important to, I guess, follow your instincts and follow what you want to do. Um, in EMS in particular, a lot of people get into it and maybe get burned out after a few years. But I think a lot of people stay in it because it's what they're used to or it's what they're comfortable with. But maybe there's something else they've always wanted to pursue and they just haven't because they have something stable right now. So kind of the same with comedy. Like I'm thankfully my schedule is flexible enough uh, working EMS that I can schedule around shows and open mics pretty easily. Um, but I know at some point, I'm hoping at some point I'll get to a point where I have to kind of make a decision between comedy and EMS. And I once heard someone say, uh, I forget the exact quote, it was something like, the thing that most, or how is it? The thing that holds people back from being great is things that are good. Something like that is not, I didn't word it nearly as elegantly as it normally is, but um, I think a lot of people are scared to take the jump into something like following their dreams or their passion because they're in a spot that's good. So me right now, like I have a job that is full time, it's very steady, um, very reliable job. I don't have any risk of losing it. Um, and I've got retirement, I've got benefits, I have really good hours. I love where I work. I love the people that I work with. And that's going to be hard to give up, especially for something like comedy where I don't have like a set retirement. I don't have benefits that are paid for by the company I work for. A lot of that's going to be on my shoulders, which is fine. But I think I kind of think already that I might have some hesitations in doing that. Um, but chasing your dreams requires you to be risky at times. Um, excuse me. So that's a good question. I think it's important to chase your passions, Tyson. I think it's important to do what you enjoy, which for me is comedy and podcasting and EMS. Even I enjoy EMS, so I love doing it. Um, yeah, it's important to find what you enjoy and just do it. Just show up and do it, and take those steps, even if they're scary. Good question or comment. My buddy Joey Oswald, shout out to you. He commented, um, something to talk about is how not to forget where you started in life. Um, we've talked about this before, Joey. uh, hmm. I think you're commenting this because I'm in Ohio and we weren't able to hang out the other day because I'm in Ohio. Never forget the people that were around you and helped support you in your dreams. I think that's uh, or supported you in getting to your dreams. Um, I've got a lot of great friends that are very supportive of what I do. Um, some that'll show up and help with shows or um, help run sounds, help take pictures, all that kind of stuff. Um, never forget the people that helped you pursue your dreams. What's going on, Joey? Um, Beth commented, how do you be a leader without doing harm? And how do you stay grounded? That's a really good question. Um, I'm not going to pretend like I have a bunch of leadership experience. I will say that the leaders that I've found to be most effective in my life, um, who have been just the best example of leaders, have always been humble. Um, they've always been friendly, willing to talk. Anyway, I think being a good leader and the leaders that I've had in my life that stick out as being the most effective, they've always been humble. And I think that's the best quality you can have in being a good leader is one, like knowing that you're maybe not always right and admitting when you're wrong. But two, knowing like when your team or like a teammate is going to be better at helping make a decision, like relying on them and being humble enough to ask them for their opinion. I think that's really important. But humility would be probably the best thing. Mike Burnett, he commented, um, he said, something we could talk about is me or Mike. Mike, you're going to be on the podcast here soon, I promise. Mike's a good friend of mine. He's a good comic, very funny. I think he's been in the scene for about 4 years now. And yeah, he does shows all over the Capital District region. He's starting to host his own shows, so go follow him and go to his shows. Give him a like and support his shows. And go check him out. He's very funny. Mike, I always talk with other comics about your laugh because it stands out at shows, but it's really funny. And if you go see him live, you'll know what I mean. Jamie wanted me to talk about pregnant kangaroos. Not going to do that. I don't know. Maybe there's a joke you can be had for pregnant kangaroos. No, I can't think of any. Pregnant kangaroos. I mean, that's a thing. I think it'd be really defeating if, although I don't really know where kangaroos carry their babies. I'm assuming it's similar, like to how women carry their babies, just in their like abdomen area. How crazy is it that you like give birth to a baby, and then you still have to carry it like in the same place as you always have? That would suck. That's all I got on pregnant kangaroos. Got a few more questions from friends, and then I'll get into the ChatGPT questions. Giona commented, Mary fuck kill, pancakes, waffles, and French toast. It's a great question. Mary French toast, fucking waffles, and killing pancakes. David Stickle commented, worst bomb story. Shout out to David. He's another good comic in the Capital District area. Go give him a follow. Also listen to his podcast that he has out. It's linked on his Instagram page. Worst bomb story. Worst bomb story. Okay. This isn't like truly a like I didn't do awful, but now that I look back, I cringe at it. The first paid gig I ever got was for a fire department annual banquet that they did, and they wanted me to go to the restaurant they were doing this banquet at and do 20 minutes of stand up. Well, they said like 20 to 30 minutes, and I was probably only like 5-6 months into comedy. I definitely didn't have a 20 minutes worked out. I shouldn't have accepted it, but I did. It went okay. I got some good laughs. But now that I look back and like I had the footage from that show, I just kind of cringe at it because the quality of comedy that I want to put out was not there. And it was very just kind of pieced together. It wasn't, or the bits that I did were pieced together of different bits that I had been working on but not fully worked out. And yeah, it just didn't go that great. So it wasn't a true bomb, I guess. But it's probably the cringiest thing I've done was my first show doing a solo comedy and doing 20 minutes by myself when I was only like 5-6 months in. That was kind of cringe. Good question, though. Here's a good question from Michael Saltz, which we've not met officially, but we kind of, I think he's more Hudson Valley. He does comedy down there. And I believe you're a paramedic or nurse, or maybe both. But he commented and asked, lidocaine versus amiodarone. I personally just use amiodarone a lot more, and that's solely based off of New York State protocols and kind of what's written out for us to use. I don't have a strong preference one over the other. I've not done a ton of research into lidocaine in that sense, but it is available to us. It's an option as a lot of and a few standing order things, but it's, I think, mainly med control option for us in the field. So I'd have to go with amiodarone to start. But what do you think? If you're listening, Michael, what do you think? All right, this next question comes from Nick Miller, a paramedic friend of mine. He says, if you haven't done so already, you should review the movie Code 3 on your podcast. That's a great idea. Code 3, if you don't know, is a EMS-themed movie that just came out probably like 2-3 months ago, starring Rainn Wilson. Really good movie. Really funny. I think it hit on a lot of kind of stereotypes and like just common things that we see in EMS. There's a few parts of it that were a little unrealistic, but it's a movie, so there's some leeway there. Yeah, I thought it was really funny. I've not had some of the same interactions that they have in that movie, but I don't doubt that some of that goes on. And it was pretty good about pointing out some of the flaws in the system, I guess. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's certainly worth the watch. It's really funny, especially if you're working EMS. I think you'll relate to a lot of what's in that movie. Yeah, go check it out. It's really funny. All right. I don't have any more questions that were submitted online, but I have a few questions that I thought were interesting from ChatGPT. I gave it the prompt based off the questions and things I've done on here so far on ChatGPT. What are some good questions you think I should answer for a Q&A portion of the What's Going On podcast? And it gave me a whole list of them. So I'm going to go through and pick a few, and we'll answer those and go from there. The first question was pretty good. What's the weirdest thing you've ever seen happen during a comedy show? It has to be, I went to Vermont Comedy Club and saw Steph Tolev perform. And she actually performed or posted a video of this like 3 months ago, I think. But during her set, someone just very loudly ripped ass in the front row and then like raised their hand during the show. And she was doing her closing bit, and it just completely derailed that. And it was very distracting, but she made it incredibly funny. If you haven't seen Steph Tolev, go check her out. She's not clean by any means. They call her the filth queen for a reason, but she's very, very funny. And she made that bit super funny. The next question it asked was, what's the worst heckle you've ever gotten, EMS or comedy related? I have been heckled while being in EMS, or what I would consider being heckled. I had one when I was doing my paramedic precepting time. We had to do shifts in a hospital in the ER just to get patient contacts and practice certain skills. And we had to wear these orange uniform shirts. And the one that I had was pretty tight. And a local ambulance had brought in a very intoxicated younger guy that was in police custody, and he was fighting the police and fighting EMS when they brought him in. Well, I don't know why this always stuck out, but he was just like grasping at any insult he could hurl out there. And he insulted everybody very specifically and like pretty mean. And then the only thing he said when he looked at me was, "Man, dude, I can see your nipples through that shirt." And then he just moved on. That's the only thing he said to me. I don't know why that stuck out, but I thought it was kind of funny. It was very specific, and it was telling that my shirt was too tight. But comedy related, I had a lady at the Moose Festival that we talked about earlier. Actually, I posted a clip of this. She asked, there was a giant stuffed or taxidermed moose on stage, and she asked if this was my first time on stage with a moose, and it was. It was very unique to that situation, but probably the most interesting heckle I've ever gotten. Another question in ChatGPT asked was, how do you balance running shows, performing, podcasting, and EMS without losing your mind? I'm very new into comedy. I don't have a lot of shows to balance, so it's pretty easy. Um, it does take a lot to podcast and edit and put out videos. I'm still trying to be better at that. And that working EMS is pretty tough, especially with November because I picked up a lot of overtime. So it's kind of hard to devote as much time to comedy when you're doing that, but it works. It make it happen. I don't have a ton of shows that I'm like trying to fit into my schedule. I'm not there yet in my career. Hopefully one day, but it's not too hard. Or I guess who prompted you to want to do comedy? I would have to say Tim Hawkins. Uh, he's a Christian comedian. I grew up watching him. Him and Brian Regan. Uh, they're both very clean. They're both very animated and kind of physical in their comedy, um, but just incredibly funny. And one clip in particular I watched from Tim Hawkins was one that someone had like recorded on their phone of a show that he did, and it's a 17-minute clip. It's like called "Parenting with Tim Hawkins" or something like that. It is probably the most laughs I've seen in one chunk of comedy before. He's just constant joke after joke, and the way he delivers and his timing and his expressions and the way he acts out things is just super interesting. Um, and I still go back and watch that video very frequently because it's just such good comedy. Like the quality's really good there, um, and it's good motivation for me. I want to deliver that same quality of comedy and that same caliber of jokes. So that would be my answer. Would be Tim Hawkins and Brian Regan. Here's a good question. What's the funniest, this shouldn't be funny, but is EMS moment you've ever experienced? Okay. I want to be a little careful when I say this stuff because, well, I don't care, I guess. I've had a few times where I've been on calls with patients that were like an amputee or double amputee, and like either myself or someone else on the crew has asked like, hey, can you wiggle your toes, or can you take a few steps for us to the stretcher, just out of habit, like we're trying to do an assessment or we're trying to move the patient and we just ask that question, but we don't put two and two together that they physically don't have feet or they cannot walk. um I think those moments are funny. um I also, one of the first things that came to mind was early in my career. I had a cardiac arrest that I was doing chest compressions on, and the individual had a lot of gas. I'll just say that. And every chest compression we did, the person let out a little fart. It was just it was so small, but it was heard. It was very funny. Very sad in that situation. But here's a good question. What's one EMS myth the public believes that drives you crazy? Calling the ambulance will not get you seen quicker at the hospital. Not always, at least. I think a lot of people believe that if you drive yourself to the hospital, it'll take longer because you have to check in and you're waiting in the waiting room and you're not getting physically brought back to the ER, as compared to calling an ambulance will bring you straight into the ER and straight to a room. That's not true. Uh, Everything is done by patient acuity and severity of the injury or illness. So people that are having an active heart attack or a severe injury are going to be seen quicker than people with like a minor cut or bruise or, a cold. So don't just call EMS because you think it's going to be quicker. Call us if it's needed, absolutely, but don't abuse the EMS system. Um, it's likely that if you're not severe or it's not a true emergency and you call us, we'll still put you out in the waiting room and you'll still have to wait to be seen. depending on how busy the hospital is. A good question. If you could teach every civilian one emergency skill, what would it be? I'd have to say bleeding control, which is maybe controversial. Bleeding control and CPR are like equal in my mind, um, as far as important life saving skills that you can do. Um, Bleeding control, I think, would I'd teach them first, I guess. Just because if someone is involved in a really bad trauma and they're losing a lot of blood, which causes them to go into cardiac arrest, you doing chest compressions or CPR is not going to stop them bleeding. So any blood that they do still have in their circulatory system, if you start chest compressions, they're probably going to lose it if they have a major hemorrhage. So the important thing to do is to stop the bleeding first and then start CPR or do them simultaneously. So stopping the bleeding, which just to teach you quickly, the main thing that stops bleeding is pressure. So if that means putting a piece of gauze over a wound and putting pressure on it, if you're putting a tourniquet on somebody, that's putting pressure on an artery or vein to help, or artery to help stop blood supply to that area that's bleeding. But pressure is the answer. So one question they asked is what was your worst job before comedy and EMS? Probably working at a grocery store. I worked at a grocery store when I was in high school, and the management wasn't the best. It was kind of odd. And I enjoyed the people that I worked with. I enjoyed the work itself, but the management was kind of odd. So probably that. All right. Another question. What's your most controversial comedy opinion? I think I'm not sure that I have one that really sticks out. One that Brad Monkell and I talked about briefly in episode 9 was some people need to stop doing comedy. And I only say that because I think if you're doing comedy just to have fun, cool. If you're doing it because you want to pursue a career in it, cool. But if you're doing it without a purpose or without a goal in mind, it's a little frustrating for other people because you're taking stage time and you're dividing crowds. You may be losing audience members. You might walk people at an open mic if you're not being intentional and like really working on your craft or trying to be funny. So I think some people maybe should not be doing open mics. Everybody should try it at some point if they want to, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's the most controversial opinion I have. And I'll end on this one. It's a good one. What's something you wish people understood about what you do? I think for comedy side of things, I think some people struggle with knowing why I do it or like what's my drive behind doing it. Genuinely, it's a high to make people laugh. Like it feels really good when I can get a group of people that I know or don't know and tell a joke or tell some story that makes them laugh and makes them feel good. And even especially when I can bring like laughter to a topic that's sad or like typically people have a negative viewpoint on. It's like I have jokes about like EMS related things or like death in my show or in my not my show, my performances. And I want people to understand that you can laugh about these things, you can find humor in these things. Not to be dark or twisted, but that just so it makes it easier to process those things. I wish people would understand that more and understand that about comedy. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Genuinely, I kind of procrastinated on doing this, so it is 1 a.m. on a Friday morning, and I'm tired, so I'm going to edit this, get it posted, and then go to bed. But thank you guys for listening to me yapping for a little while. I know this was not the typical episode, but I wanted to still post something and just kind of stay as consistent as I could. especially since I didn't post anything last week due to Thanksgiving. So I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed answering your questions. You on Facebook and you ChatGPT. And yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Catch you on the next one.